Good afternoon. This is Dr. Renee Fajardo, the Director of Metro State University of Denver's Journey Through Our Heritage program. We are very pleased this summer to announce our Summer 2020 Summer Lecture Series. This is our premier lecture series, and we are very, very excited for our guest speakers and for the hard work that the students have put in. We also entered this lecture series on a very somber state, having many, many issues in this nation that are plaguing us and heartbreaking, and that we really want to be courageous and address. So the series is entitled Courageous Conversations, a community dialogue about systemic injustice and racism in America. We're going to kick off our series today with a very special guest speaker. Her name is Tina Gualt Shield, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. I have had the pleasure of knowing Ms. Shields for the past, I think, 40 years. We went to a very small undergraduate college together named Peru State College in southeast Nebraska, where students of color, as myself and Tina, and a whole basketball team were recruited, and we had a lot of challenges to overcome. And I want to say that Tina changed my life, because when I met her in college, we were both very active in student affairs and bringing lectures and series to the campus. But at that time, I'm going to say myself, I had had a lot of bad experiences with people who were not from my ethnic cultural family. And even though my mother's Jewish, we had been really mistreated by Anglo people, and I came into college with a very bad attitude and a lot of anger and hate in my heart. I'm going to say that of all the people in the world, that Tina Gualt is the one that made me see the light, and had basically brought me to a realization that we are all human beings connected to each other, and that the Creator works in mysterious ways. So I do want to say thank you for that, Tina. I think her and I just had this conversation recently. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend, my colleague, and my mentor in many ways, Miss Tina Shield. There you are. How do I mute?
Right. Oh, okay, thank you. And I'm
How
new
do
to this.
How do I mute?
Okay. So it is an honor and a joy to speak with you all today. And you can call me Miss Tina, or I go by Tina Shield, but I am hyphenated, so you don't have to say the whole long thing. So my married name is Shield, but I am Tina Gualt Shield, but you can call me Miss Tina. And I was born in Chicago, Illinois, raised in the inner city.
I'm sorry,
So
first
I
time.
grew up in South Shore in Chicago, Illinois. I graduated from South Shore High School. I went to the first magnet, racially diverse experimental magnet school. And at that time, I was introduced to different people. I then went to Fisk University, at HBCU in Nashville, Tennessee, and then moved to, transferred to Peru State College in Peru, Nebraska, where I met Dr. Renee, and we became friends. But it wasn't a quick friendship. We had a battle, and then we decided that why not be allies instead of fighting against each other. And with that, I ended up with a best friend for 40 years. And even though we see each other not as often as I'd like, we are still good friends. I have a bachelor's of science degree in biology. I've taught physics, chemistry, health, biology in the Dallas Independent School District, because now I live in Dallas Metroplex. And presently I'm working in the Louisville Independent School District as a dyslexia teacher, sub. And my mission in life has been to make a difference in children's lives and expose them to different nationalities, and let them know that we all bleed red. You know, we may be different colors on the outside, we all bleed red. And at the end of the day, people are people.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Elva. We've met before, and I've emailed you before this. I go to MSU Denver, of course. I'm VP here at JTOH, and I am majoring in mechanical engineering. So yeah, that is me. And let's see. Do I call the next person?
Yeah,
Or
you call the next person.
yeah. Let's see. MK is right next, so let's do that.
Okay, yes. Hello. Oh, look at my hair back. Okay, so yeah, my name is Makia. I'm gonna change my name to Denise one of these days. I go to MSU Denver. I spoke to you on the phone recently. And let me think. And I'm a nursing major, so yeah, that's me. And I guess I'll choose. Let me look at the participants. I guess I'll choose Brenda.
Hi. Oh, thank you. My name is Brenda. Thank you for being here, and thank you for giving your time and speaking with us on your experiences and having the space for us. It really means a lot, and I know it's a lot, especially during these times. But my name's Brenda. I am a political science major and a Chicanx minor and attend MSU Denver. I'm from Los Angeles, California, but live here. And I'm excited for today, excited for our conversation. Next person I'm choosing is Tala.
Hello, my name is Tala Muhammad, and I am majoring in computer information systems, and I've been working with Journey for 3 years now. And I'm choosing Elva.
Oh, I already went.
Okay, who didn't? Layla?
No, I didn't go. Hello, my name is Layla. I'm a nursing student and second year of MSU. Been working with Johnny for this is my first year. Yeah, and I'm from Ethiopia. Eric, if you
Who did you call?
Eric,
Eric?
yeah.
Hi, so I'm Eric Perez. I am president at Journey. I'm graduating in December, and I'm majoring in criminal justice and minoring in Chicano and Chicano studies. And who else hasn't gone?
Musashi, Christina.
Christina can go next.
Christina?
Hi, sorry, I have a lot of background noise right now, but I hope everyone can hear me.
Can we see your face just for a minute?
Yeah, how do I, okay.
Oh, you don't have to. It would just be nice, but we see your name.
I'm trying, select a camera.
That's okay, Christina, just go. It's okay.
Okay, hi, my name is Christina. I go to MSU Denver. My major is Human Development and Family Studies. My minor is Special Education. And I am from upstate New York. I've been in Denver since 2016. And I've also lived in Philadelphia for 6 years of my young adult life. And thank you for joining us today. We all really appreciate it. And I think Musashi is the only one left. Is he here?
Musashi?
Hi y'all, I'm Musashi Houston, and I'm going into my last year at Metro. I'm majoring in psychology with a minor in sociology. And we want to thank you, Ms. Tina, for coming out here and taking time out of your day. And we're excited to hear your perspective on things.
Okay, so I don't know if everyone was on when I told you that I was in first grade, and my teacher would hit me on the head if I missed a word when I was reading in front of the class. And it was very frightening. Not necessarily I didn't know the word. It was just that I was terrified to speak in front of people. But with that being said, she was verbally abusive to me, and would call me out of my name, call me a dumb little kid, da 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 da. But I was afraid to tell my parents. So that was something that I held inside of me. But through the years, well, at that point, I was thinking, well, if I was white, then I would be okay. Then she wouldn't hit me, because that I didn't know that. And so, so through elementary school, I took a test to be transferred to another school, because living in the environment that I lived in was, I don't know if I could say typical Chicago inner city, but there was a lot of bullying and just kind of a real difficult time. And so I got the opportunity to go to one of the first experimental magnet schools that was racially diverse. And it was totally racially diverse. There were white people, Jewish people, Asian, Puerto Rican, Spanish people, Mexican people, everyone was there. Oh, we had a girl, she was from Sweden. I mean, and it gave us the opportunity to meet people and be friends with all different types of people in the world. And I still have those relationships with some of the people. And we were a small knit group. There were only 50 of us in each grade level. And that was very instrumental in my life. And building up my self-esteem and building up who I was as a person. And then and I loved it. I loved it. I was thinking this was great. And I tried to go to a high school that was just like that, but that was not in the card. So I ended up going to a predominantly Black high school, and which was very good for me, because I ended up being queen, president of the student government. It was just really a great opportunity for me, and it allowed me to get scholarships and go to my first college, which was Fisk University. And it was like a total immersion and of educated Black people all in one place. And it was like, oh my God, I thought I was a lot. I thought I was up here, and I wasn't. I was like the same people that I had gone to school with. They had been overseas and studied abroad. And I was like, how did you get to do that? That was a great opportunity for me. And then I came home and ended up transferring to Peru State College.
I would probably have to say it was when I was really little. My dad was still living with us. We were about to go to Illich's. I think I was like maybe 5, 6. It was a really young memory, but we got stopped by the cops, and nothing had been done illegally. Like, there wasn't like we weren't speeding or anything. I mean, we were going to Illich's. And there wasn't really, like at first, they asked my dad. We had just almost gotten here from Mexico, so they didn't really speak that well, their English. I couldn't even speak English at that age yet. And it was just really hard to kind of communicate like what had he done wrong to get stopped at, and it was kind of like, I mean, I couldn't have helped either, because I was, like I said, I couldn't speak English at the moment. So yeah, like at first, my obviously my dad was being cooperative and all that, but they got really aggressive for some reason. Like we said, we still, to this day, we still don't know, you know. And I mean, my dad was trying to say like, hey, there's a kid in the car, like, you know, I'll do whatever you want me to do. You know, they took him in. Still, we don't know why. They, at the end, they said that, I think my dad spent like a day, you know, in jail before like we got him in. But like, I guess at the end they said that he was resisting arrest, but we still don't know, you know, like what was the stop for? You know, we weren't speeding, you know, or we had plates in the car, and we had like um, our insurance was up, you know, like everything was good as far as we knew, you know. So we, you know, it was a really confusing experience because, like I said, like, there was a language barrier. We couldn't really like defend ourselves in any way besides, you know, just, well, you know, do what they do what they're telling us to do, even though we quite didn't really know what they were telling us to do. um and yeah, that I think that was my first, you know, real like experience. I at that point I didn't really think of race or, you know, anything like that. Like I just thought maybe cops are scary, and that's how it is, you know. Like but it didn't really click until later on that I started learning more about like biases and stuff like that. And like, I think my first grade teacher kind of opened my eyes to that once. She was talking about how one of her friends got killed for jaywalking. And she was a Latina teacher, and she had a you know, her friend was Mexican. So that, to me, that was kind of like the start of like, oh, so that's probably what happened to, you know, like way earlier with my dad, you know, like there wasn't really a reason besides us speaking Spanish and, you know, like our brown skin. So that was kind of like, whoa, okay, so there's an issue in the world that I didn't really know about, and, you know, my innocence is kind of over in that aspect. So yeah, that, you know, it was two kind of separate experiences, but first grade, when my teacher told me, that was kind of like how, you know, my eyes were kind of open to an issue that was going on in the world that I was kind of too young to understand. And that was my experience. So
Thank you, Elva. You can call the next person.
let's see, MK.
Yes, hello. Um, Thank you, Tina and Elva, for sharing. Like, it is powerful, you know, when we share our stories and when we're able to kind of speak on these issues, because a lot of them go unspoken, like in Miss Tina's situation. Um, I guess I don't want to share my first. I would like to share like the most long lasting, because I always knew I was black because my dad was one of the first people that was you know, not first, but he was in the integration of schools. So that was a whole nother issue, and he dealt with that and still dealing with the effects of being bullied because he was a black guy in a white school. Um, but I guess I would say my most long lasting one would have to be um I guess, well, you know, there was such thing as like a crack epidemic in the 80s, right? And a lot of people were affected by that. And it was like the CIA opened up channels from Colombia or something. And but when I had first seen my grandma smoking crack, I definitely associated that with, you know, people putting crack in the black community. And that was probably the most long lasting, just because it affected me directly. My family was wealthy before the crack epidemic. We had owned multiple houses, multiple properties. We had um, one of the best chicken restaurants in town, the Capri Chicken. They would always tell me stories. People would come from all over the nation just to have just this chicken in the Five Points. There's still like You could look up Capri Chicken and there's still information on like how big my family was back in the day. But due to the influence of like, you know, the CIA and all this, my community was ruined. The 5 Points was ruined. Having houses and everything of that nature became a thing of the past, with redlining and all this other things that I'm not going to go into because I don't have enough time. But yeah, that was the most long lasting. Definitely seeing the crack epidemic affect my family and affect the world around us, knowing that we don't own boats and um, we don't own anything to fly crack into our community. So it definitely was an outside party. So yeah, that was mine. I guess I'll pass it on to Brenda.
Hi. So I guess here I'll turn on the video. It's just cold. It's really cold today, and soy friolenta. But I guess the concept of race and just othering has always been like apparent to me, even since birth. You know, family members would give me nicknames like Pata or La Negra, just because again, even though, you know, I am a lighter Latinx. But I specifically remember, you know, just academia was always the space that really made me feel displaced the most. I didn't speak any English coming into Colorado from California. So I was 4 to 5 years old, and my teachers would, you know, I didn't know English and I was a child, but you could feel when someone just really doesn't like you for some reason, or just that space isn't created for you. And it, you know, I feel academia, just that whole space has been something that I have been having to push myself through and really make my space in there, because if not, no one else was going to make it for me. And especially having non-Black, non-people of color teachers or professors. Yeah, but ever since youth, I feel it's always kind of clicked. Not that racism really is understood by 3-year-olds, but you can kind of feel when something is not right or something's off. And ever since birth, I feel I've known that there was an othering. And yeah, that's just my experience. Layla, has Layla gone?
No.
No.
Layla?
So I'll talk about this one that still affects me till now. There were in 8th grade year. I was in my history class. My history class was 10 people, and none of them were white or like mixed or like people of color. So they were basically white, including the teacher. So she put on what is it called? This documentary about how Africans were shipped to America or were like stuff like that. So I'm a very sensitive person. So I remember just crying very hard because I couldn't watch the video. So I was crying really hard. And this kid came up and he was like, yeah, that's how you're all treated and that's the right thing. And then the teacher was like, yeah, go back to your seat. And then he was still talking, she didn't do anything. So he was like, yeah, you do not belong here, you should go back to Africa. And then it was like 2015. So he was like, oh yeah, you also have Ebola, you also have this because you're African, because you're this. And it's just one thing that affects me till now, like, because I can never watch, even when I was in high school, and I would just cry by watching videos like that. And I just remember even when they talk about like 9/11, people will like straight up look at you if you're the only Muslim person, and it's just something that still like happens. Yeah. Christina.
Yes. Oh, no, I've gone already.
No, it's Christina.
Christina. Oh, I thought you said Miss Tina.
No, Christina?
Can I have a few minutes? I'm sorry.
Okay. Why don't you go next? Musashi?
Yeah.
Okay, you go next.
All right. Yeah, the first time I've like personally felt racism is back when I was in, that was the summer between fourth and fifth grade, and my family was like taking a road trip from New York City to Vegas, and on the way we stopped by Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and yeah, there's lots of like, well, conservative people there apparently. So not exact. We got like the if you guys know what the Asian look is, like once when Asian steps in the room, people kind of stare at us like no one's seen us before. We kind of like got that look. So that was my first experience of racism. It wasn't like any violence or no one said anything, but it just felt really weird being looked at because I look different from others.
Okay. Tala,
Yes.
we're gonna have you go next.
Okay. So, the first time that like I faced racism and it hurts me, like I faced a lot of racism before, but it didn't like make that much of like a pain inside until like that last one that I experienced before the school shuts. So that one I had to go to do a peer review in a writing center, and I went there, and it was for a writing that I wrote when I was in high school. So it was my first year here in US. So my English wasn't good as it is now. So I went to the writing center, and I found that girl, and she was like she had to edit my writing because that was what my teacher asked. And then she was editing my stuff, and then she asked me like a lot of questions. Is your English like that because you're not from here? Is your English like that because you're not white? And I was like, I was shocked, like I couldn't even see like say anything. And at the end I just took my paper and left without even like doing the assignment or finishing it. And that was like the day before the school closed. That was like the much one that made me like much angry than anything else.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I think that we have Eric next.
I'll go. So I have two, and both of them happened to me when I was pretty young. So I went to a Coy Elementary, which is a like predominantly like affluent white school, and there was only 4 kids of color there, and like I was friends with all 3 of them, and like we were friends from kindergarten to 5th grade. But in 1st grade we had a gym teacher that was a sub basically because our gym teacher was having a hip surgery, so he was out for the year, and he made a remark with me and my friends saying like, oh, like you monkeys must stick together, because like we were the only colored kids, and like I just remember that because it was like we like were really like what the fuck, that was like weird. And then the second time I would say is when I was probably 7 years old. They were looking for the cops were looking for my uncle, and they put a like shotgun to me and my like baby brother. My baby brother was 3 years old, and they like claimed that they were looking for him, but like we had small beds, but they like looked under the bed and like looked in our closet, and yeah, that was probably the 2 most like impactful ones for me, just because they happened to me when I was so young, and it's just like so like shocking. And then Orlando's gonna go next. So here's Orlando.
So, no, I'm not. Okay, so my experience with racism, basically, I'm basically like the black sheep of the family on my mom's side, because I'm Puerto Rican, and my mom's side they're all like predominantly Irish. So one time, like my grandmother decided to have like, you know, a grandson day, like, you know, like we got a park out, a gazebo, and we had like a little picnic and everything. And basically like my great grandmother, who sadly doesn't like me, she was like, oh, I'm so proud of all my grandkids, and like made a big toast and was like, oh, Dylan and this and that, and like left me out. And like my uncle, my mom's like brother basically was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, you gonna leave Orlando out? Like, he's your grandson too. And it's been like a whole big ordeal with my mom's side of the family. Even my mom doesn't get along with them too well. It's like I got my grandmother and like her brother, and that's really about it. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.
The destination is on your right.
Oh, okay, now is it Christina? Have you gone? Christina has not gone. Christina?
I grew up, like I said, I grew up in upstate New York. And the little town that I grew up in was like 50-50 white and Mexican. And all of my friends growing up were Mexican, like most of them. And when I was like 11, I remember, we didn't have a lot of Black people in my community, but when I was 11, someone moved to my school, and he was Black, from Brooklyn, and he and I became really good friends. To this day, we're really good friends. And I noticed that when I would go to hang out with him, my mom wasn't okay with it. She would actually ground me. Like, she would do everything in her power to, if she thought that he and I were gonna be spending the day together, to hang out, even though we were just friends. And my mom also grew up, my mom was born and raised in the deep south of Georgia, and her father was openly racist. And like, I never met him. I never had any respect for him for anything I heard of him. But so that's kind of like the point of view that my mom had growing up. My family, some of them believe that it says in the Bible that there can't be interracial couples, and a lot of my family denies white privilege, and it really frustrates me. I try my best to make them realize, but it's something that you can't realize like overnight. It comes with education. I consider myself like very diverse. When I was 16, I moved out of my parents' house and lived with my best friend who was Mexican. And I learned a lot about the Hispanic culture from living with her. I actually learned a lot of Spanish. I'm kind of bilingual, and learned so much about their culture. I've had the privilege to go to South America. My daughter,
South America, right?
yeah, my daughter's Hispanic. And at the age of 18, I moved to Philadelphia, which is predominantly Black. And I lived in West Philadelphia, where there's definitely not a lot of white people there. And I embraced it to the fullest. I just embrace, the beauty of different cultures, for everything that it is. And, I lived there for 5-6 years, and the whole time I was living there, my parents, they never felt comfortable enough to go visit me there, except for when I graduated.
I actually, growing up in Chicago, my mother was an activist, and she did a lot of marching, and I had, we had people come to our house all the time talking and speaking. And so I really bought into the Martin Luther King speech, and like, I want to be judged by the content of my character and not the color of my skin. And going to Peru, my first experience, my first day in Peru, I moved into the women's dorm, and someone hollered at me, "Hey, you black so-and-so, get out of our school." And so I was devastated because I've never been confronted straight like that with racism. So of course, definitely I called my mother, called the dean, and we, kind of worked our way through it. And I think at that point, I made it my mission, from what I went through in elementary school with that teacher, and then what I went through in middle school. And I just had a fabulous experience with people of various cultures and very diverse. And I could not understand why Anglos, white people, thought they were better than us. And so it was my mission to find out, well, what's the difference? So I was a very international. So I dated a lot of different nationalities and cultures, and then I grew up in Chicago. So we had a lot of interactions with Black Muslims, and my sister dated Muslims. So, and then we were, I was just exposed to a lot of different things. And I decided that was going to be one of my missions. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew back in my head. And then I met Renee. And when Renee and I first met, Dr. Renee, we were kind of snotty toward each other, a little snippy toward each other. And we were running for student senate. And they tried to pit us against each other. Now we're in this all predominantly white school, and the minorities that are running for this position, they said, well, we only have one position. And so then we had a runoff, and the runoff was a tie. And the board, the people that were on the Senate, the student Senate, had decided that they were gonna vote for me and not vote for Renee. And I was just frustrated about that. The whole student Senate was white, but they didn't want minorities on it.
And she was nice. They thought I was an asshole. But
And so I would not talk to Renee, and I said, look, they don't want us around, and if they don't like you, then they don't like me. And we need to be friends, and we need to be allies. And at that moment, life changed for me, and it changed for, I believe it changed for you. And we were sisters. The only thing that was different is that we didn't have the same blood. And so we actually ran that school. We ran it. We did everything basically that we wanted to do. But in that, we came up against a lot of bigotry and racism. And people attacked Renee because she was my friend. And that was just heart-wrenching to me, and just the town, the college sat in the middle of this town, and the whole town was racist, I think. We cannot get ahead unless we are open and receptive and accepting of other people's differences. And if you want people to accept you because you're different, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's a wonderful thing, because I always compare this to a salad. Would you just like to eat lettuce all day? But a salad has tomatoes and onions and cucumbers, anything that you want in it, and it makes it so alive. But you have to first try something different. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. It means that you have to accept or try to have a level of understanding. And the only way to do that is to interact with people. You can hate all you want to. And that's what we dealt with. We dealt with hate around us, but we decided that we weren't going to deal with that hate. We were going to force and push through and change things. And so at the end of the day, we ended up with a very diverse group of friends, really. because we took that step. And I think today, with all the unrest going on, it's terrible. It's awful. It's and Black people have been abused for, I mean, hundreds of years. But and we have marched and cried and been murdered and houses burnt down. And a little bit at a time, it's been changing. A little bit at a time, it's been changing. And it's frustrating and hurtful to see every time someone Black is murdered and killed. But what's good that I see out of all of this, even though it's the worst situation ever, is that this has made different races come together. And I just want to state how strong you are if you're together. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't bad white people, or there aren't bad Black people, or there aren't bad Hispanic people. And you have to learn how to navigate through that and find like minds of people and in different nationalities and different races. And it's something that's important. I love culture. I love to sit down and talk to people. But if you don't sit down and talk to people and expose yourself to them and their lifestyles, you'll think that you're an island, and you aren't an island. And if you feel like you've been mistreated and hated on from years, and you carry that with you, and you know that feeling, what are you going to do to make a difference? How are you going to change that? And you cannot change it with hate. You cannot, I mean, you can be angry, and angry is good because you take anger and you change it over to passion. And that is productive. And you get like-minded people, because I think with the young people, I am so proud of college students and young adults today that they are pushing forward, pushing through, and making a difference, making a big difference, and saying, no, we aren't going to tolerate this. But you have to change your mindset. And you changing your mindset doesn't mean that it gives people an excuse. But when we were in Peru, I ran into people that never seen a Black person. I ran into a person that touched my arm and rubbed my skin and thought it was going to come off. The color was going to come off on them, because that's what their grandfather told them, or their dad told them. And I had people say to me, well, Tina, you're just regular. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, I don't think you're Black. Oh, I said, I'm very Black. I'm one of the most Blackest people that you know. But this is what Black is. That stuff that you see on TV, that is something that someone's made up. And I'm sure there's some people like that, but that is not reality. This is more reality. And you have to get to know people. And I relish all my friends with different cultures, because they love me as a person and I love them as a person. And I just happen to be Black. And I don't shy away from my Blackness. I mean, if you come in my house, I have artwork, my artwork. When my white friends or my Hispanic friends come in my house, they're like, huh, we didn't even know that you can have Black pictures like this. It's like, well, yeah. And so I'm always constantly teaching and sharing. But by the same token, I am learning from them also. And then we find things that we have in common so we can move forward. And I think that is what's going to push us through this difficult time.
This is our courageous conversations, and I think our first one went really well. I told you there's a graph that came through. I hope we're going to be able to edit this down and put it on there. I just want to thank all of you, and Tina and I are not all here, but we're going to leave with this. Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you for
I love you.
having
Thank you, Miss
Thanks
Tina.
for your
Thank you so
time.
much.
Of course,